big reason why Clair Obscure caught on so well is like, you will be sobbing in the first hour. You just will.
Yeah, they managed to hit an emotional tenor pretty quick with that. And it looks spectacular. So like
it looks great.
You know?
And the thing is, like, hardly any gameplay happens in the first 40 minutes, which normally is a problem, right?
Butterscotch.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 580 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the weekly podcast for indie game developers. I'm Seth, and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam, the miscellaneous programmer.
I'm Sam, and I'm the artist.
And we are Butterscotch Shenanigans. Today is June 29th, 2020. Quick! So this episode will be coming out on, July 8th, I believe, which will be 22 days before the launch of How Many Dudes. And we thought it would be kind of fun to have this episode be a breakdown of all of our launch plans, of what exactly are we doing to try to get this game out there into the world. How are we thinking about things? What are all the different steps we're taking? What do we think we know? What are we not sure about? You know, just all that stuff. So I think we'll kick it over to Sam, and he'll kind of steer us through, as he's kind of our primo marketing.
Yeah. And the idea of this breakdown is we're basically gonna tell you everything.
We want to try to be as open as possible, because this is, we want this to be useful for other developers who are launching their games, and just, if you haven't launched a game before, or maybe you did, but you feel like maybe you missed some stuff or whatever, or also this is useful for us, because if we missed some stuff, or if we have some bad ideas, let us know. Because there's still time to correct.
Yeah, not a lot of time, but some time.
Yeah, I mean, as with many things, we've got a lot of experience, but we don't know everything. Obviously, we're not authorities on this.
Despite what people say, experience does not necessarily equal wisdom.
Yeah. So the goal of this is to just kind of talk through it and share what it is that we're doing and why. So let's get into it.
Yeah. So on a very high level, basically where we've landed the month before launch, is in a place where the game is essentially done. Right. There's a few more like visual effects and some other things like that we will continue to add. But from a balance standpoint, from we completed our beta, from sending off our final big batch of localization stuff and having that be now in loc QA, all of that is underway. We also have our final trailer cooked and loaded. It's sitting there on every single platform, ready to just be flipped on. It's basically scheduled for the actual the intended time, which we'll get to in a little bit. And so we are basically a month out from launch. Our studio is actually going on break for a week, which I know is probably crazy. It's a crazy idea for a game
we always
studio.
do a summer break on 4th of July for about a week, just to get a breather.
Yeah, and it's one of those good ones where it's because everyone's synced up, then it's more of a break than breaks typically tend to be if you just go by yourself on vacation. So that's basically where we wanted to get to before this final 30-day stretch, this final month before launch. And the reason is because basically once we get back from break, which will be around the time this podcast episode goes out, then things just things start happening in pretty short order. And so we wanted to make sure we were locked and loaded. And I want to mention just again, very high level, we talked about release dates many episodes ago about how we picked the one for How Many Dudes, kind of what goes into that. And again, just the gist of it is just try to pick one that is essentially far enough out that especially now you can take advantage of the personal calendar, which you can show up on 2 months in advance. So I would say make sure you have your release date publicly on there 2 months in advance, because otherwise you won't be able to show up on what is now essentially the best discovery mechanism that Steam has for you.
Yeah. So unless you've got a Silk Song and you're just going to shadow drop, that's
I wouldn't shadow drop anything. Yeah, I guess maybe if you have millions of wish lists, but at that point, why are you listening to this podcast? So,
you don't need.
You don't need it.
Yeah, maybe we can listen to your podcast. Maybe
you got making one, please.
But yeah, so basically, make sure you have your launch date out 2 months in advance, and then picking a time where it's more so about knowing that the influencers and people you want to cover the game are not going to be busy covering a game that is similar, right? So it's not really about necessarily about avoiding Grand Theft Auto or whatever else. It's about avoiding things that are very close to whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, I still would avoid something like Grand Theft Auto because
I still would.
It's going to take over. It's going to do store. It's going to do store takeovers. It's going to be.
It'll fuck up the store.
It'll fuck up everything. Yeah,
Well,
so
yeah,
you want to avoid that scale of game, but otherwise you're mostly just trying to avoid games that would be tagged similar with yours on Steam. Yeah.
I will say, so I've seen a lot of developers starting to pop up asking questions in different communities, being like, should I launch my game on Steam in November? Like around, because that's when it'll be ready. Should I do it, even though Grand Theft Auto's coming? And a lot of people are like, don't worry about it. Like, you're making a platformer. You're not competing with Grand Theft Auto. Everything's competing with Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
And the reason it's not like sales.
It's not people are choosing to buy that versus yours. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about attention, right? So it's that if literally every YouTuber, every Twitch streamer, every news article, every human being on earth will be talking about Grand Theft Auto for the month leading up to it and for maybe even the month afterwards,
Probably.
then how are you going to break through that noise? Like, how are you going to do it? How are you going to get people to watch videos about your game? People only have so much time in the day to put their eyeballs on different things, right? And it's just going to be Grand Theft Auto. So it's not really about your game isn't that similar to Grand Theft Auto, so you're not going to compete. That's not really the problem. So I would still avoid these kinds of.
Ideally,
yeah, just give it a wide berth.
Yeah, give it a wide berth if possible. Yeah. And then it depends on basically a variety of other factors as far as what day of the week or whatever else. Again, high level Thursdays for us, we just tend to be the ones that we like the best because of a variety of factors. It lets you sit on certain lists over the weekend on the stores.
And it gives you a Friday to fix shit if you need to.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, we're basically locked and loaded then coming into July. So what happens when we come back is a handful of things. So one is that we are in Tacticon, which is like the biggest strategy convention. That actually is one of the ones.
Did you mention the actual release date itself is July 30th? So how much?
Yeah. So July 30th is when the game will come out, and that is so
we're working backwards from there.
Yeah, working backwards there, and that'll be again when it comes out. So again, you have to push the button at a certain time. And so for us, that push button thing happens typically around like 10.
Yeah, we do it around
CST.
10 a.m. Yeah, Central U.S. time. Like I would say our time because that's where most of Butterscotch is. So we do it around then, but the release date we give is at noon our time, which is 10 a.m. Steam time. So that because we want basically as the store started to roll over, we want the game to have been like there for like up a little bit, and we want to make sure that because we don't care if we release the game a few hours early. Who does that hurt? Nobody.
Nobody.
Because we want it to be the case that it's true that when we say, hey, the game will be available to you at, because we list different time zones, blah, blah, that at this time, that it actually is. And things have to roll through all the stores and all this kind of stuff. So we pull the trigger early, look for any issues. And there always is something that we fucked up, So give us a little window to find that stuff and all that.
Yeah. So then basically what we're looking at is over these next couple of weeks, a handful of these there's marketing things that are happening that we don't have to really do a lot about. And then there's these timing things that there's times that you want to choose very specifically for certain things to try and make them happen, right? So first is our involvement in a few of these like conventions and that sort of thing. So again, Tacticon, that's like the biggest strategy convention thing. It's put on by Hooded Horse at Fire Squid. It actually has a Steam page thing, right? So we're not talking about, this isn't like a little thing where no one sees it unless they're looking at the event specifically, like already driven by the event. This is like, it gets the thing on Steam. So that's happening the 9th through the 13th. So we're getting into that lead up window. We're hoping to be, as we get kind of into that final 2-week stretch in particular, to start showing up on more and more personal calendars. We haven't gotten to get that close yet to see exactly how that's going to happen, right? But this is just like an automatic things are happening. While that's kind of going on, then we have like our very, very final batch of ideally almost no strings that we're sending off to localization. So that's like final things that we've needed to get fixed. And that happens on the 13th. So this is like 2 weeks and 3 days ahead of launch, basically. Because the 16th is essentially the first big day for us. So this is 2 weeks pre-launch is when we try to do basically the initial influencer outreach. And a lot of people are always trying to figure, or you're always trying to figure out like when exactly, if you're trying to reach out to influencers, like when do you reach out to them, right? And depending on the person you talk to, publisher you talk to, everyone has it's like a sliding scale of exactly when, but it typically is around, I feel like it's around like 2 weeks out is when you want to start contacting influencers. Almost everybody says. But importantly, as we've learned over the years, you want to have an embargo attached to that. So embargo just says, hey, don't actually talk about this. Don't publish anything about this game until some particular day. Right?
Yeah, the idea of the lead time is so they have enough time to decide if they're going to make content, play the game, make some content, so that they have a time when they know, hey, we all get to go live on this date, right? So that people aren't trying to compete to be the first one to put
it's sort of like
out.
ensuring almost like a fair play sort of a thing, right? Where it's like, okay, yeah, everyone gets a week, or like at least some days to put together some content and you can put it all live on, in our case, the 23rd. So 23rd is when the gameplay embargo lifts.
Yeah, so 1 week before release.
Yeah, and as far as like setting expectations, that's when like things can come out. But like as far as what we've seen in the past, we've seen videos start to come out immediately when the embargo lifts. We've seen stuff show up literally like a month after launch. You know what I mean? Like it was a person we reached out to from the embargo. So that's just when things essentially like are allowed to start happening. And by allowed, and again, this is like the tricky one. This is not like a contract. You know what I mean? You're not like signing.
It's on his hopes and dreams, baby.
Because you're blind sending out. Because you're just sending out mass emails being like, hey, please cover my game. Please cover my game. And also, please do it. And also, please respect this embargo date, right?
Yes.
So you don't have
not blind in
individual
the
agreements.
sense, not in the sense like you don't know who you're sending it to, but in the sense that you're not getting any feedback. They're not saying like, I'll
it's
cover
largely
it,
it's a cold call. It's a one
Yeah.
directional conversation most of the time, right? And so there's not a room for you to have any real control over. Are they going to do it, and are they going to follow my rules?
Yes. And so to get into a little more like the kind of nitty gritty on what that looks like for us, we had a very good coverage of How Many Dudes Already with the demo back in December. And so essentially our first wave, we do it in a few waves over the course of that week before the embargo hits. So as we get deeper into like closer to the embargo day is when we send it out to people who we don't know, basically more so. We're like, who haven't already covered the game, or who might be like a little more risky because they're smaller creators who maybe aren't as familiar with like the rules, right? Yeah, because every game we've published, we've had embargo breaks. Every single one.
Yeah, and importantly, this is something that I feel like this is a pattern. I'd be interested to hear what other people's take is on this. But so we've always had an embargo break, and when people break the embargo, usually the content that gets put out in a broken embargo is not very good.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
As in like not very positive or not very good.
It's rushed, and it tends to be a much less comprehensive view of the game.
Which makes sense if they didn't know that there was an embargo.
Right.
Because it is right there with the key, right?
Yeah, if somebody's breaking the embargo, it's somebody with not very good attention to detail or who just doesn't give a shit. And in either case, what they're going to say about the game is probably not very accurate.
Which does suck if that's because as you're saying, that means that you get an embargo break, so stuff comes out earlier than you want. Everybody else feels like that's unfair, and it doesn't highlight your game well.
Yeah,
probably.
And it's going to give you internally a heart attack in your team because it's like you'll only get maybe 1 or 2 videos that break the embargo or whatever, and they're going to be pretty mid. In terms of like the way they talk about the game or the quality of the video, and then it's just and then you'll have several days of silence after you send a message, hey, you broke the embargo, and they always go, oh, whoops, and then they take it down, and then you'll have several days of silence before like thoughtful people show up and start talking about the game. Right?
So it's
you
never,
will have that emotional roller coaster.
It's never fun, but I think you bring up a good point, which is like how do you handle the embargo break? Right. Which is like, literally you just reach out to them. You say, hey, there was an embargo. You need to take your thing down until such date. We haven't had any pushback from people when we do it, right? It's just, it is the case that it gives you a fucking heart attack every time because if you don't realize it's happening, which is, again, hard to realize, you have to somehow be alerted that this is happening.
It's rare for somebody to do it on purpose because they end up getting blacklisted.
Yeah.
Right.
People generally don't do it on purpose. It's just, it's always, sometimes they just hit literally like fat finger the wrong date. Yeah. And again, like the volume of people you're asking for this stuff is so high.
Well, and also the volume of stuff that they are dealing with is really high, right? So it's one of those things that's like you gotta have some empathy for both sides of this, right?
Yeah.
I
get it.
Yeah. And especially if you have like relatively complicated embargo instructions, which is because typically an embargo actually isn't just, hey, you can start talking about it on this date. It's, hey, we have different ways you're allowed to talk about it starting on these different dates, right?
Yes.
So as in like there's usually a review embargo, which is like
Yes,
right
which
next
we
to
also
launch
we
or
also
launch.
have, and
Yeah.
that'll be basically I think it's 2 days before launch, maybe.
Something like that, yeah.
Or sorry, the day before launch.
Day before, I think, yep.
Is the review embargo. And so basically it's like if you're making a video or a gameplay thing, if there's a score attached to it, that's technically a review embargo, right? So that has to wait until later. So that part of the challenge then when you're doing your influencer outreach is making sure you categorize the people you're talking to effectively so that you can just send them one embargo thing. Because you're like, this person reviews things. So I'm not going to tell them the gameplay embargo's here. You don't have to worry about
Now,
that.
how many
Simplify.
people do you reach out to, Sam? What's the?
Luckily, I don't have to reach out to any of them anymore because we're working with Recoup to do this stuff. Really good team.
Yeah.
So, but they have to reach out to a lot. So first, we basically reach out to again those like high value people who already covered the game some way. So they get like the earliest thing. That'll be
High
like,
value just meaning they got a lot of traffic.
Yeah. And we also we're pretty sure that they're going to cover it too. You know,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, so this isn't a judgment about the stuff that they.
Yeah, we look for people with a sizable audience and a good match for the game in terms of what their audience tends to.
And who seem professional, have likely been around for a little while, so that again, these are people who are the most likely to not break the embargo.
So what are we talking? Like 5 people, 10 people? What's
5 to 1,000?
About 1,000.
500 to 1,000.
Yep.
Depending. And then basically what we do is we just kind of roll. You sort of like think about it like a net. Like you start narrow, and then in the next every day you kind of just open up a little bit. And part of that widening the funnel too is also because typically as you're reaching out to more people who may not already be familiar with it, right? So as you get deeper into that process, then you might have more inbound stuff where they're like, "Oh, do you have like some assets for me, or can I use this?" You know, there's some more stuff to handle. So it's usually better to roll it out over a couple of days, so you're not like getting even if you get like a minimal pickup from this. Ideally, you get like some people reaching out to you and being like, "Oh, cool, that sounds great. Do you have some?" Like, you might have a question or two, and so you don't want to necessarily be hit by 1,000 of those.
Yeah, because it is important to say, like, just because you're sending stuff out to a lot of people doesn't mean you'll get any coverage at all. And we've struggled with that,
correct,
also. And there are lots of different resources on the internet for like how to approach this. There are PR teams who have variable success, but who do this because they think that they're good at it, right? That you can hire.
Well, they'll have more of a relationship.
That.
Yeah, they'll have more of a relationship with these people because they reach out to them frequently, right? Which is oftentimes a benefit of using one of those.
Yeah, if you are looking for a marketing and PR team to help with that, that's what you want. Is because most of this stuff, the thing that breaks through the noise the best is
previous
network effects. Yeah, it's people who already know people. Yeah.
And this is also one of the benefits that a publisher will have. Typically, a really good publisher will have like a person on their team whose job is literally like essentially hanging out with influencers, right? Who being the one who's always messaging them, like they're our friends on Discord, they're our friends on Twitter, like so that they can.
Sometimes they are an influencer. It's like there are some publishers who will hire
these days a lot.
Yeah, they'll hire a couple of influencers who are networked in with a larger community of content creators, and then they tap into that network to get people in. So yeah.
So if you're looking at publishers and looking at PR teams, that kind of stuff, that is the thing you want to be asking about and checking on is what does your network look like, and how likely is it that you can get coverage?
Yeah, because it's not just cold. Like anybody can, you could send cold emails to people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it would take some time, take some finesse to craft it. But the thing that you can't just like do is have a relationship. Yeah. So that's what you pay for, in my mind at least. But yeah, so basically that stuff starts on the 16th. So that's kind of our first like game is like done. You know what I mean? Like it's out there now once the 16th hits for us.
Yeah, because we're sending keys out. On the
keys are out.
Yep.
It's got to be as good as we think we can make it by that point. And we'll, of course, as always, we're always tweaking stuff. So I'm sure there'll be little bits here and there as we optimize and whatever else. But
it'll still be slightly better by the time we launch, but not significantly different.
Yeah.
So
and we also we don't really want to touch it too much after that, to be honest, because like it's usually we get to a very stable point. Yeah. So it's like. If that's like, oh, I got this optimization idea, we're like, just wait, man, just hang on for 2 weeks because
we'll do it on a branch and let it sit.
Yeah, because we don't want to fuck with it. So
this is the move slow and don't break anything phase.
Yes, yes. And during this time, then, like, what's the rest of the team doing? Is one of the questions, right? And it's like, well, again, there's still like a lot going on and a lot to do. So Seth might still be working on optimization stuff. We might start talking about a little bit about like post-launch plans, but usually we're still getting these other things ready, right? So again, the embargo lifts on the 23rd. So it's 1 week before. That's the gameplay embargo. On that day,
like you said, we've mostly outsourced to this other company
that work. Yeah.
The work of getting all the keys out and dealing with all the back and forth. Because if we hadn't outsourced that, that's the only thing we would be doing. Is
100%.
Which we used to do ourselves.
Yeah. Yes, which was a lot.
When I say we, I mean Sam, basically.
Yeah, Sam would help with lists and stuff, and it's always a lot.
Yeah.
So very happy not to be doing that anymore. But yeah, so then on the 23rd, with the embargo lifting, we're publishing an update to the demo on Steam. So this is basically to try to bring the demo more in line with what the 1.0 is like. So that involves essentially like a recut of what the demo content is.
It's a demo cut from the current version of the game rather than
right. So it's still the same dudes, but it actually does have basically the food system in it and a little slice of the trinket system in it. So you basically get that full experience of what the game is like.
And I think you can see all because there's a lot of new creatures and stuff too, right? So I think
you can see a lot of stuff. Yep. So that's the idea there, is basically to make it possible, like the runway effect we saw with the demo back in December, as these, ideally, hopefully, as streamers or YouTubers are playing it, as these videos are coming out, people are like, oh, this looks fun. If they want to go try it, right, and sort of play along, which we saw seemed like it had good results, not just wishlist it, then that they could go do that, and then hopefully a conversation kind of.
And if influencers we haven't reached out to, and because again, we're going to be inundated with stuff the moment anything starts to happen.
Yes. And
it's really hard if you're on the influencer side, especially if you're a smaller influencer. It's extremely difficult to break through the other direction. To be like, hey, can I have a key? Right. And so that's the other advantage we get by having the demo be recut. It very accurately matches what the first part of the game experience is like. Yep. So that if somebody wants to be able to cover the game and they can't get a hold of a key, they can just go get the demo, and it'll be a very accurate representation of what the whole game is, right? Yeah, and so that way we're not the full gatekeepers for all the coverage that we could possibly.
Yeah, I feel like honestly having the demo available is it's just really good. It's just a nice thing because it lets you not have to worry so much about being super responsive if you're a small team to incoming key requests and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, because somebody can at least just go grab the demo and play it for a while if they want to,
100%. Yeah. So with that though, on the 23rd, so again, all happened on the 23rd. The launch trailer also goes live. So this is the trailer. Again, we've already done with it. That's going to go live on Steam, on YouTube. Whenever you're doing these launch trailers, it's also annoying because you have to cut them. You have to put like different badge stuff on the end, depending on which platform you're on. Steam, obviously, you don't want to be showing like an Xbox logo at the end if you're coming to Xbox or something. They don't like that. So you have to recut the trailer like 6 different times for the different platform configurations. Make sure you put them in the right spot. All that stuff.
We have also 2 different language versions, right? Of the
Yes. Yeah. Once you get into actually localized content too, then you got
those too, and
so we get all that stuff happening then on the 23rd.
And when it comes to making a trailer, that's a whole ass conversation about how to think about that. But I will say we've switched to using CapCut from Adobe products, and CapCut. That's Prebo. That's very good editing software. Super, super nice.
Yeah,
so
it's
hard to pay for.
And not in the sense that it's expensive, in the sense that it's literally hard to get them to take your money. Like you try to do it, and they're like, I don't know, something's not working, and you gotta pay them. You got to come at it from 6 different directions before they'll find the transaction.
I can't even remember. Like
I don't even know how we did it.
Got it going. Yeah.
I think like 3 of us ended up using PayPal, and 1 person managed to get a credit card to work or something. Like
it was crazy.
Yeah. It was insane.
Once you can solve the troll's riddle, then you can get through it and use CapCut.
Yeah, it's for the launch trailer itself. We're doing basically a gameplay focused trailer, so not like a narrative one like some of our past ones. And part of the switch is also just thinking about, one is just the localization effort required if you're doing voiceover stuff for like a game that you're really trying to push out all over the place. It's just a lot, frankly, a lot more complication, because you do have to like recut the trailer and sync things up a little bit differently for one of those, any of those language variants you do for the voiceover. So we're just kind of simplifying it there, but then also like our thinking about launch trailers has also evolved a little bit. When the launch trailer goes live, we'll be reaching out to a bunch of these like trailer outlets. So like IGN, I think there's like Games Press or Game Trailers, or whatever. There's a bunch of these things that like commonly a PR company, or if you're with a publisher, will reach out to with your launch trailer, in advance of launch. They just put it up on their YouTube channel themselves. There's not like a link to it. It's like they just host a video, right? Again, we've never had, like, even with our really good trailers, like what we thought were really good, where they were like more ridiculous and over the top with like more VO or whatever else. We not had a lot. Like sometimes people post videos that on these trailer sites that do somehow like become their own little viral moment, and we've never had that. And
We've had decent views on some of them, but like it doesn't seem like it matters.
Yeah, it's like it does a lot.
Yeah.
And so, and I was, again, for some people, they do seem to report that it does do something. So I don't know if it's just like it's one of those game audience mismatch things or what exactly. But part of our thinking too with the launch trailer is that it's mostly, you think about like, who is it really for? Like, is it really top of funnel people, or is it actually people who are on your store page? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because those are different. Like what you're trying to accomplish with those audiences is it's basically is somebody going through a discovery process wherein they see your video, right? As in like scrolling on YouTube or whatever, right? Because there you're trying to hook somebody instantly. Like you're doing different kind of stuff than if you're on a store page, which can also differ by platform too. What you're trying to do, right? But on a Steam store page, if someone is seeing your trailer, they've already decided to go look at your store page, right?
Yeah. Or Steam has identified them as someone who probably will like it.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, now we're talking about this does maybe imply, because a lot of games will have multiple trailers on their Steam page.
Yes.
Yeah.
Might be like a cinematic trailer and a gameplay trailer. We haven't done that yet, but it is something we could potentially think about if like, you got your launch trailer, which is just like, hey, hype, like here's some cool stuff, get hyped about the game.
Here's what the game is.
But once somebody's on the Steam page, having a trailer that's more, here's what the game is, or here's what it's like to play it. Kind of a thing.
Yeah, you just see some like the walkthrough ones, where they're like a gameplay overview trailer.
Yeah. So it's probably not a bad idea to do on the Steam page, but that's not a marketing material for getting people at the very top of the funnel. It's more like to lock somebody in once they've hit the store page to make them be like, okay, yes, I want this.
Yeah, and what I want to say, like as far as how we've framed like this launch trailer, it's like it's more so because what we realized also from the demo too is like the amount of actual traffic you're going to get from essentially that are beyond top of funnel at that point. So that means like Steam recommending the game to people is different than someone just like, again, scrolling through shit on Twitter or something. And a YouTuber or influencer recommending the game to people is also much more akin to like Steam telling someone to go get it. Which means that you're more so in the camp of just being like, here's more of what the game is like and sort of proving the quality of it and the quality of the production than you are, I think, in like trying to sell the game with the trailer.
Yeah, they got there because they're hyped about it.
Exactly.
So you don't need
increasingly true.
And like sell it to them at that point. Just show. Show it.
And we talked about this in the past too about store pages in general, right? Is a lot of what you're trying to do is not give people a reason not to take the next step, right? Because if somebody makes it all the way to your store page, they already are thinking that they might want this thing, right? And so much what people are looking for actually is they're looking for red flags, right? They're not really looking for green flags. Because I think we've all, even if it's not fully conscious when a player is sitting down and looking at a store page, what we've all learned is that the only way to know if a game is good is by playing it, right? So no matter how, you can't really get a good sense of what it is until you play it. So the only thing you really can look for is evidence that you can tell if it's something you wouldn't like, right? Yeah. So you're looking for like evidence of quality problems or evidence of things that you don't like.
I will say, right, to that point, something we've had a statistic as we were looking through stats for this. This is pretty cool. This is on Google Play. 87% of the people who land on our store page pre-register for the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is crazy to be honest.
It's hard to believe. It makes me feel like the stats are big.
It seems insane. Yeah, because if we flip over to like iOS, it's not the same. But it's a different mechanism because they don't have a pre-register, they have a pre-purchase.
Yeah, you have to buy it. You know the price, and on Google Play, you don't actually know that it is a paid game.
Yeah, right? They don't say that.
Yeah, my guess is the conversion rate that we see to purchasing players, like at launch, of like the pre-registered to purchasers for Google Play, it's like probably going to be similarly incredibly embarrassingly low as the App Store pre-purchase one is, right?
But in terms of like, if you think about sort of like it's like a Steam wish list, right? It's like, I landed on the page. Do I want to know about this game when it launches? Check the box, right? And so to have 87% on that means that like whatever we've got there is at least on Google Play for that audience is doing the job.
Yeah.
Pretty well. So
and also like that the trailer we have there is actually just sort of a recut short.
It's not even the updated trailer.
And also like I think when you go visit the page, it's just like playing in the background. Like you have to go click on it. Yeah, it's like a weird.
It's kind of hard to watch the trailer. You got to go out of your way to do it.
Yeah. So it's like again,
different stores have different quirks.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those funny things. Like in the past we've been very, very precious, I think, especially about launch trailers. I think increasingly now I'm feeling less precious about them in the sense that like they're just one more piece of this thing, but it's far more important for you to do a good job in basically in like the demo, in the outreach aspect to influencers, right? And to think about how these things interact than it is
and most importantly, just nail the fucking game. Like, just nail it, you know?
Like on a high concept level. I think if you could do that and the trailer's like fine. And part of this was we went and looked at some of these other trailers for games that have launched recently that have done well. And we were looking at the Blatro one.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this
this
the launch trailer? It's so chill. It's just like, so you see the cards coming out, you know, it's like, and again, it fits the vibe of the game, but also it's just like, it was
like
so
that trailer
not
wouldn't
like,
have sold me on the game.
Yeah,
right?
but also like, I don't know, any Blatro trailer. How could you possibly make a trailer for Blatro?
Yeah,
You know
it's
what
just
I
a
mean?
card game,
Like,
right?
It's a fucking card game.
it's
So,
so,
and that's the point of like the influencer space, right? Is to say that you've already been convinced by seeing somebody else play the game, right, and talk about the game, and so you actually already know what it is that you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
And it's pretty rare these days, I think, for like you to go into a game and be like, okay, I don't have any idea what this is. Let me watch the trailer. Now I know what this is, right? That's not really a thing that we experience.
So yeah, so that's kind of our, I guess, how our thinking is evolved on the launch trailer thing. And so yeah, this one is just, it's like a very cool beat synced like gameplay trailer. It's very punchy, but it's not trying to do the most in any one of those like funnel aspects. It's just like a nice little piece.
It's trying to be good. It's trying to be entertaining. It's trying to give you. It's trying to create a sense of understanding of what it means to play the game. That's what it's doing. Right?
I still think we need to put that little note on our trailer that says actual footage rendered in engine, just because.
Oh yeah,
because it's a 2D game and that'd be fucking hilarious.
Ray trace. But yeah, so that's the 23rd is essentially the what I consider the big day, right? Which is, it's when things possibly can start happening. You know what I mean?
Like that's when the embargo.
Yeah, that's when the gameplay embargo lifts. That's when the launch trailer goes live. And so again, things
the demo goes live.
Could start happening. Will they? Probably not, based on our experience. Again, like probably not. I set expectations, right? You have a week until the actual launch date, and it's just hard to say when exactly these things pop off. As we talked about with the demo, or if they do. As we talked about with the demo, which again we launched on December 16th, we had reached out to 30 creators 3 weeks prior, and one of them followed up the day before the demo ended up going live. When the demo went live, we also then reached out to a bunch of creators, and it was about a week and some change before like things started just kind of going off the rails.
My sense, my gut says, which my gut is, not necessarily reliable, but it's there and it says things sometimes, is that How Many Dudes is actually a social game, in the sense that it's like what we saw when we sent out stuff back in November. We didn't get much of a response, but then like the very few people who did make videos, they got a lot of comments on their videos. People want to talk about the game because they see things in there and they just got something to say about just some goofy thing that they saw or about a decision that somebody made. And I think that's the reason why we didn't really see traction until we had the demo out.
And until the demo got picked up by some big.
I think it is the sort of game that it can roll up pretty effectively.
And so
you start getting some people playing it, and then
so we're in this weird space where like we're following kind of the normal path, which is send keys out 2 weeks before launch, embargo lifts for gameplay a week before launch, then review embargo a couple days before launch. But it's really I think it's really not going to have the potential to go anywhere until players get their hands on the game at launch and then start talking to each other and to other creators about it, right?
Yes.
I think because of
possible,
the demo, I think that's where that becomes less true, right? Because
I think
players
because we
can get their
had
hands on it, right?
And also because I think we had enough success, not our own, but like because our videos that are produced about How Many Dudes outperformed other videos on those creators' channels almost across the board, right? And I mean like by a factor. Oftentimes like it'd be like How Many Dudes want to get like a 1.1 million views or something, where other ones are getting like 200 or 300,000. And so that's also the sort of thing where the creator's going to want to make more stuff about it. Like once the audience could also be more involved after a while. And so that's why I'm hoping that we get some of them during that week. I'm betting on it. I agree that like once the game is live, that's where things really can go off the rails. But you hope for something in that week.
And I do also wonder about there's probably going to be some weird. I mean, I think it's going to be like a combination of like annoyance, but also excitement of people who like they'll see the dudes and the stuff that people can do, that like the YouTubers and streamers have access to because they have the full game a week before launch.
Mhm.
And then the general population will still be able to play the game, but just the demos. They'll just have like a subset of it.
Mhm.
And there will be probably some kind of like, just like, let me play the game already. You know, like I already have the demo, just launch the damn thing so I can do the stuff that I'm seeing these people do. But that's okay. That's just hype. You know, it's just part of it. So
that's fine.
Yeah.
So then leading up to the launch, then we're doing a very small like Reddit ads thing. And mostly, again,
well, small by the standards of campaigns that we've done in the past. For most indie studios, it's probably going to be pretty.
I think we were talking about like starting with a couple $100 and then like scale it up.
It is literally.
It actually will be. I think just kind of small on the scope of like how much money you pay for ads.
Yeah,
sort of
compared to many games marketing budgets, it's not really much.
But it's also a scale of like potential impact, right? It's like I'm not even sure exactly why we're doing it when it's that small of a scale, besides just to see if it seems worth doing, so we can decide if we're going to scale up. Right?
It's basically just that
at that scale, it can't even do anything. You know?
Well, it'll push some traffic.
I mean, I'm a believer that ads don't do anything at any scale, but that's just my own. That's
part of the thing is we know that Steam likes inbound traffic, right? Yeah. Steam likes inbound traffic, and especially around launch time, if you got any levers to pull, then you can pull them without breaking the bank. Just pull them, because like it's all about this question of like where are you ending up in that like algorithmic flywheel, and can you kind of lever yourself a little bit higher in such a way that you kind of go, because again, it's entirely possible that nothing happens that whole week. It's entirely possible, and so it's like, okay, I guess it's just us then doing some Reddit ads and this other crap.
Kind of to your point about the algorithmic stuff, like we try to think about velocity a lot, which is like if Steam will have some kind of behind the scenes, they'll have some kind of a ranking system where it's kind of like, which game do we feature here? Which game do we feature there? You know, because there's only going to be so many slots to feature a game, right? And so let's say there's a section of Steam that gets a lot of traffic and there's 3 slots, right? On that day, you know, their algorithm's going to look at all the different metrics of like, okay, how many wish lists have they gotten in the past week? How many external visits do they have? What's their conversion? You know, all these different things. And if your game is the 4th one on the list,
right,
but only by a little bit, then you potentially lost like 2/3 of your sales because you didn't just bump up to that.
Yeah, I think it's a big problem. It's like, because all these things follow these power curves, right? And so it's true that like once you're getting close to the very top of the power curve, the gap between you and the person above you is fucking enormous.
It's huge. Yep.
And not going to be overcome by like paying a couple $100 into any ads campaign ever. But like when you're in that middle, the gap is not very big between being like number 25 and being number 20. Might be just like a very small percent.
You don't need to be the top performing game on Steam. You just need to be in the top few that day.
Yeah.
For new releases. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to have a million sales. You just need to get on the list. So just whatever you can do to just bump up a little bit.
Yeah. So all these things they're basically just us pulling levers to try to push some more traffic in a moment where if we get a little more traffic, then we could get a lot more traffic potentially.
Yeah. And this is also part of why a big part of why the timeline is what it is, right? Is some of it's practical. There's like 2 weeks at a time, stuff goes out to streamers, and a week ahead of time is the embargo lifts and the demo goes out, right? But the reason that we have a week there where now people can cover the game, right? Mm-hmm. People can get the demo. The demo is the first part. Like the demo is the same as playing the game for a while, right? Mm-hmm. The full game. So like that's true. Streamers could be putting out stuff, all of that, right? Is that we actually intentionally have a tight window, not just for practical reasons, because it's easier for us to have that window be as short as possible, right? But also because we want it to be fairly tight so that all of the activity that ends up happening happens right up and lead up to launch.
Yes.
So that everything is happening then, it's not being spread out. Whatever ramping effects happen can't peter out before the launch happens, all that kind of stuff. And so and there's a risk of doing that too, right? Because in theory, if you had 2 whole weeks where people could be covering the game and talking about this stuff, then for certain games, certain kinds of luck scenarios, right? Then that could be the thing that gets you to an enormous peak, that extra time before the game launches. But it also could be the thing that allowed it to collapse.
It peters out right before it launches, and then you don't.
Yeah. So with all these things, you're just making your best guess, and you're gambling on.
Yeah, and we talked about this the demo too, which is like, the ideal time for someone to find your game is on launch day when they've seen it from their favorite streamer who put a video out that day.
'Cause then they can go buy it. Right?
Yeah, but you don't get to control any of those factors. So you basically have to set up this corridor, right? That's not too big, so that hopefully things happen kind of within the space where it seems like those are going to be still related to the roll up that happens algorithmically. And again, like, yeah, you got to keep in mind whatever your game is too, with regards to this. How effective can someone get an experience with it over the course of just a couple of days of play? But this is one of the kind of, it's like a gripe that we had with Crashlands 2, as far as like when we went to go and launch it and market it, but it's also just true of the genre, which is like anytime you're launching like a big ass linear RPG, you're asking a lot. You know what I mean? Like, you're actually asking a fucking lot of anybody who's reviewing it, because if you're like, well, you need to, like, the game unfolds in the case of Crashlands 2, there's like new systems being added for like fucking like 12 to 16 hours.
I guess, yes, part of our motivation for why we made How Many Dudes the way we did. It's just like, yeah, if you read a review from somebody and they're like, yeah, it's pretty good, I guess. And like, yeah, but they only spent 4 hours with the game. Right? It's like, that's actually a lot of time.
This should be enough time.
It's not a lot of the game's of what the game has to offer in the case of like Crashlands 2, right? But yeah, for How Many Dudes, the idea was like, you should be able to play like one, not even a full run.
You get a pretty good sense of what the game's about. Yeah, and of course it is the case that like there's a lot of depth in the different types of interactions in How Many Dudes that you're just not gonna notice or catch on to until you're 10, 20, 50.
Well, it's also that you're
hours in,
but you can tell that there is more depth, and
Yes,
that's
right.
that you have to thread that needle properly, because otherwise people are just like, oh, I get it, and then they move on. But if it's like, oh, okay, yeah, right, and it's like that's the kind of
Right. Instead of being like, oh yeah, you got to be 20 hours in before you see this character who gives you this game changing power. That's like a different.
it's just like, oh, now my next run, now I know this, and I can do the next thing.
Yeah, you don't want it to be like there's that South Park moment where like after they've spent their entire lives killing 1 trillion boars, and then at the end they're like, well, now what do we do? Well, now we can finally play the game, right? Like, you don't want it to be the case that the player has to jump through a million hoops before they get it, right?
Yes.
And like for some games, you can't avoid it. That's just the way that type of game works. But that does mean that it's just going to be a lot harder to get good quality, thorough reviews and
Well, and it'll also be
feedback and
harder
all
for
that,
those reviews and videos and stuff to have an impact, right? Because the same thing is being asked of the viewer as was asked of the.
You got to
person
watch
making
15 videos in this series before the game really gets good, right? It's like, okay, well, can we figure out how to like knock that down a bit?
Yep. Yeah. So like a big part of it is like a lot of the success you'll see here, I think, just comes back to what the game, your decisions you made a year ago or 2 years ago, to be honest with you, unfortunately. And so that's, again, part of the other reason why we do our short strategy now, as far as like seeing if people actually give a shit. It's part of the approach we're having with just how we design games, period, from How Many Dudes on.
Say, I think this is a big reason why Claire Obscure caught on so well, is like, you will be sobbing in the first hour. You just will.
Yeah. They managed to hit an emotional tenor pretty fucking quick with that. And it looks spectacular. So like
it looks great.
You know?
And the thing is, like, hardly any gameplay happens in the first 40 minutes. Which normally is a problem.
I'd say that's something you can get away with at more of a AAA scale that you cannot get away with as an indie.
But just the fact that like, and just to kind of like do a sampling, like I went and I watched some YouTubers, just like, people will make a series like, oh, I'll play Claire Obscure, and they'll start a series. And I would just watch the first episode of these, because every single time the person is crying in the first hour, just every single time, right?
Like, it goes back to the point. It's like you have to have some kind of a response,
something meaningful and remarkable happens in the first hour.
Is you're describing in the first hour. That's an enormous amount of time. Like, people have to have already decided for other reasons that they're going to commit time to this, and that's something that you can't bank on as an indie, as an independent studio. Where,
you got to move that even further up. So
So then we're trying a new thing this year with on Wednesday, so the day before, we're doing like a gesture.gg campaign, and this is like it's like paying for short form video views, essentially, right? So creators go on there, publishers go on there, and publishers say, hey, I got this game launching at this time. here's my like budget, whatever, and people can basically take pieces of that budget as they make videos that then have a certain amount of views, right, up to a cap. So it allows you.
You're basically paying per CCU or whatever.
Yeah, it's essentially paid influencer campaign, but it's short form content only, and it's got an interesting structure to it. So we never done that before.
And it's so normally the way a paid
paid based on
influencer
views.
works is like there would be some kind of influencer that has a big audience that kind of matches your game, and then they would normally have somebody at their channel who handles these kinds of contracts, and then you would basically like pay them to make a video about your game, and they would disclose it and all that stuff. They say, yeah, this is a sponsored video or whatever. But the problem with those that we've seen in the past is that they are not results oriented. So, like when we were working on Levelhead, we're like, we got to get these Mario Maker creators to play our game because that's the audience that we want. But they didn't want to play the game because if they don't make Mario Maker content, they lose viewers. Right. And so it's like, all right, we got to compensate them for the risk that they're taking by making videos about our game.
I think it's also where it makes a lot more sense in the short form space, because the reality is that like in the short form, like in the long form YouTube space, it makes sense that you can't deviate a lot from like a channel.
Risk.
Yeah, there's a lot more risk deviating like on those long form videos for the creator.
Yeah.
But for shorts
is
just
chaos. So
shorts just chaos. It's like an interest based media thing. It's like I think it just doesn't.
But what's cool about it then is like if you pay in the old model, like if you pay an influencer or a YouTuber or whatever to make a video about your game, if it gets 500 views or 500,000 views, that doesn't really affect what you're paying them, right? So if it doesn't go well, I guess tough shit,
Yeah, this is also what you'll see if you're like looking into those campaigns and stuff. Also, there are a lot of businesses like this that do programs like this, and I would stay the hell away from the vast majority of them. So, but one of the things you'll see,
pay in and then just good luck. That kind of model, right?
You're not going to get anything out of it.
Yeah.
But so much of what you'll see for like the marketing stuff that's being marketed to you as a game developer to like get those services, it's all about subscriber counts. It's like we'll get it to this people with this many subscribers, right? And what you learn very quickly is that subscriber counts mean jack shit. They don't mean anything.
Yep.
But a lot of what you're doing in that space of especially like the direct pay or direct sponsorship model is you're in effect paying per subscriber, right? And that doesn't mean anything. It's not meaningfully predictive of your actual views. And you'll even see this too when you'll see people report stuff like, here's all the people who covered your game, and they list like how big they are by subscriber counts. And you're like, what do you mean they covered the game? There's videos. How many fucking views did those videos get? Right?
Yeah, they never talk about the views because they're never good. Right?
Yeah, it's always.
So this gesture thing is like you say, here's my budget. And like, I assume you set like how much you're paying per 1,000 views or something like that, up to a cap per.
Or it's like I think the amount that they get paid is just like they have some like CPM basically, thing.
Right? And so it's like if 10 people make videos about your game because they come in, it's like self-service, right? It's like, yep, I'll make a video about this. If one of them gets 1 million views and the others get 500 views, then the person with the 1 million views, they actually like get a big piece of the pie, basically. But if 1,000 people make videos about your game and just none of them get any views, then you're not out really any money.
Yeah. So it's results oriented, right?
So, but it is results within the platform, right? Because there's that next step of people watched it. Sure. Did they go take that next step of
of course
going to the store and doing the thing, right? And there's always a disconnect there, and stuff that gets the most views doesn't necessarily translate into the most because people are playing different games. You're playing a different game to deal with the algorithm on YouTube or Twitch or TikTok.
You're trying to make sales. They're trying to get views.
Yeah,
it's just
and so there's a difference, and so you have to go into these things eyes wide open and assume it's not going to pay off, right?
Yeah, and again, this isn't like a full on endorsement of this.
Yeah, we have no idea if
we haven't done it yet. Yeah, so
we also don't know if they're up to anything sketchy. No, I don't know. We're just going to do a little bit with this and see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah, basically all of our stuff amounts to small bets for these, right? To try and see if they work.
This is probably this is the campaign we're doing for this is one of our bigger bets from just a dollar spend standpoint. And then I think otherwise we're doing some sponsored influencer coverage in the Chinese market.
Yes.
And that's probably our biggest individual spend, I think.
And that's because that market actually works completely differently than the Western one in a way that was increasingly surprising as I actually learned more about like basically how do they get paid? over there, right?
Mhm.
And essentially it comes down to like they don't really get ad money. Like it's not
At
like
all. Yeah.
at all. And so the reality of how that just the shape of that market is just very different. So we're working with a company called Huqiao who's has been managing since Crashlands 2, our like China influencer side and just like the Chinese community and stuff like that. And so we worked with them to figure out a batch of influencers to sponsor for that week of launch, right? So we'll have that happening, the gesture thing happening the day before. Then the review embargo lifts on that joint, so it's the day before. And again, kind of not expecting a lot in terms of like scored reviews.
We've never had any of our games have any significant number.
Reviewers, they like to cover games that are already like hotly anticipated AAA titles. That's their again, it's kind of like we talked about how Steam is a zero-sum thing. Like same with reviewers. They got to pick which games to review, which games not to review.
And doing a review is really expensive. And the way they make their money back is by people reading the reviews and looking at ads, right? And so if they don't think that people are going to read the review they wrote, then they're going to go spend the time doing a different one.
And you've seen this more recently with like a lot of the big indie hits in like very recent memory. You're not going to get reviewers covering the game until
it's popular.
After it was already popular. So
and once it's popular, all the reviewers are like, it's good. Everybody's like,
yeah, what are you going to say?
Yeah. So
but the reason they're doing it there isn't they're not providing a service to the community, right? Because the community already knows what the game is because they can play it, right?
You can go to Steam and see 90%.
They're doing it because
so,
they're doing it because now they want to make sure that when people are searching for a popular game, they have a review that comes up high in SEO, so they can go sell ads, right?
Yeah.
Which again, it's not a knock on reviewers. That's the world.
That's just how it works.
The shape of this stuff.
It's
right?
the same. It's the same idea as like we designed this game to make sure that we can market it successfully, right? We all have to make sure that the stuff that we're making, if we're doing this for a living, so that we can keep doing it,
puts food on the table.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be in a shape and designed around the realities of what it means to sell stuff.
I think the reality is for us, like how many is the first one that we've much more intentionally designed from the outset to better match with reality in terms of how the shape of all of these different markets, basically, right?
I do want to. There are also, I think, there's a lot of indie developers out there who will hear that and kind of find that idea repulsive, but they'll just go, "What do you mean? Like you're making it? You thought about what an audience would want, and then like you're making that game instead of like what you're passionate about or whatever." And and to me that is a false dichotomy where the assumption is that you either have to work on something you enjoy working on and that you've put your soul into, or you're making something that will make money. And that you can't do
commercial
both.
versus personal,
and that's just nonsense.
I think the reality is it's a series of creative constraints in the same way that doing a game jam is.
Yeah,
I think once you've done this enough, you realize it's the same as doing a game jam. It's like, you want to make a game that like hits a theme. Are you selling out
within 48 hours? Yeah,
yeah,
that's you're not making a 3D MMO of your dreams. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. It's just yet another constraint to operate within, and like we're having an absolute blast working on this game. We've put our heart and soul into this game. We love it. It's just I've said it before. I personally put over 600 hours into just playing the game, and it's not like I'm forcing myself to do it. I just keep playing it. Like I just keep accidentally. I just whenever I have some downtime, I just pick it up and play it because I'm just having a great time, right? And so to me, it's like if you embrace that these things actually work together and they're not mutually exclusive, then you have the opportunity to see potentially bigger success.
Yeah, well, that's when you get good outcomes or potentially good outcomes in all domains. You get the good personal outcomes, making something that you enjoyed making, and you get the potential for an actual commercial outcome. Which again, if you're doing this for a living, that's so different than doing it for
and you
gotta make
a
personal expression
for an audience.
Yeah, if you're doing it professionally to make a living, you have to make a game for an audience. And I think Seth, your point is extremely important, which is that doesn't require it being soulless.
That doesn't,
and in fact, a soulless game is going to do worse.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And not always. Some very soulless games have been very successful, right? But most of the time, what people want to see is they want to see something.
I think especially in the indie
authentic
space.
expression.
Yeah, especially in the indie space.
Yes.
So yeah, that's essentially that's the blow by blow. And then on 30th, we'll wake up, we'll check on some stuff, we'll get everybody on a call, and then we'll start clicking buttons, double check that, make sure everything actually has happened. That we think is supposed to happen, make sure people are getting it, look at some numbers and be like, are people getting it? Be confused, usually for about an hour, find a problem, fix that, and and then we'll be kind of just chilling.
And then hope by the time the real release time passes that everything's live, nothing weird's going on. I know there was something for Crashlands too, because I remember we were in that call doing the same thing a year ago, and then at some point me and Stampy were like, oh shit, let's go to a different voice channel and resolve it. But I don't remember what that was, and that's kind of freaking me out. Instead of like,
do we have some notes? Something we haven't got notes.
We probably have some notes somewhere. We're usually good about that. So
I mean, one thing that happens all the time, when we're launching, because we've launched on iOS with all of our games, and iOS has their review system, and something that has happened, and basically any time it really mattered, is they will breeze us through their review process, no questions asked, no problem, right up until we're about to launch. It's somehow
always the last build. It's like the one that we send in for final review. Suddenly they decide that there's a problem.
But for them, there's not a difference. As in, it's not. We didn't check a box being like, "This is the final one," right?
No, it's just by chance, Murphy's Law shows up and slaps us in the mouth or whatever, right?
It's also usually the first fix that we need to deploy. It usually also gets delayed by an app store review.
Yeah, so that's just something that'll happen, and it's much worse if you're working on like certain consoles, because they have different sort of certification timings.
That's why we basically want to have like the launch version of the game just sitting there done
on every store,
like the fucking 13th. Be like, we're just like, that's all just done, and we're just sitting there for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Actually, are we doing any? Because we described the whole timeline, all this kind of stuff, right? Are we doing anything on the mobile side, or is this all Steam?
It's all just Steam oriented. I mean, the experience we've seen so far suggests highly that the success we'll have on mobile is going to be driven by the discovery process on Steam. So
yeah, and if you think that the sort of influencer and press sort of ecosystem around PC gaming is like complicated and weird and has weird dynamics with money and ads and stuff, like get onto the mobile side and it's a barren wasteland. It's
better to have a complicated and overwhelming influencer system than literally nothing at all.
And we did some significant outreach stuff for Crashlands 2 launch for the mobile side, right? And what we saw on mobile though is that the release of a $10 game on mobile was just nothing compared to what it was 10 years ago. And there's not a world in which even every existing like influencer and press person and so on in the mobile space, like if all of them aligned and were like, hey, you should get Crashlands 2, right? I don't think it would have made a dent. I don't think it would have done anything. Yeah.
And it is the case that the mobile platforms, they claim to be pushing toward doing a better job at selling premium games. And in part, that's because they've recently had their court battles about in-app purchases, and that, now you can go around them and instead just have your own payment.
Basically, they're increasingly not going to be able to make all the money that they were making off of free-to-play titles. The huge ones in particular,
and
which means that the floor is falling out all of a sudden for them.
Yes, now they don't, because in-game ads don't have to go through the store. Just third party, right? Which means all that's left for them to make money on the store once that hits is subscription payments, and even those could bypass because they're taking an IP too, right? But it's subscriptions and initial upfront payments on the store.
These ships are huge and they take a long time to turn around, and so at the moment we don't really see within the next year or two even probably much indication that
they're
premium games will have like a huge turnaround on mobile. That's maybe a longer term play that they're going to try to angle for, but
our assumption is still that all this, whatever success we get with How Many Dudes, that it's going to come down to, if we get enough success on Steam that a large even a relatively small fraction represents a large number, right, of people who then are like, ooh, can I play this on mobile? Because it's going to play great on mobile, and you'll want to play it on mobile, right? So then they'll go look, and then they'll find it and be like, cool, I can get it on mobile, right? And they'll get it, right? So it's basically entirely hinges on that success, and then Google Play Pass, because Google Play Pass is the one mobile environment right now where people go to find games. right? And where surfacing a game on the store actually is a discovery mechanism that means something, right? And so those are basically the two factors involved that make it being worth being on mobile at all. At least in theory, we'll see with how many dudes launch what actually.
We'll see if it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the
plan.
And like I said at the beginning, we don't know everything. Some would say we don't know anything. And so,
I would say that honestly.
And so,
I think we've got educated guesses, and I think they're reasonable given what we think we know. But
yeah. So as always, if there's anything that we've missed, let us know. Let us know in the comments because we want the game to succeed, and if there's some important aspect of this launch that we have just have a blind spot to, we want to know about it. But also, if you've launched a game recently and you've got notes to compare, drop that in the comments as well, because we're always interested to kind of get more data points about how things are going. So, and that's all the time we have for this week. We'd like to thank our producers, Fat Bard and Sampa DaCosta, for putting the podcast together. And thanks to our community moderators who keep our Discord running. To get more involved in the Butterscotch community, just go to podcast.bscotch.net, where we have links to the Discord, a way for you to donate to support the podcast, and links to the archives. And, of course, the launch of How Many Dudes is coming July 30th. So if you haven't yet, head on over to Steam, wishlist it, head over to Google Play and pre-register, or the App Store and pre-purchase. And that's all we have for you. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.